Well, good Wednesday morning to you, everybody. It is Wednesday, May the 16th, 2018, and this is the Hump Day edition of Take Two. Now, if I'm a little out of it this morning, please forgive me. I went to bed quite late last night, so I didn't get as much sleep as I usually would. But it was for good and noble reasons that I did go to bed late last night, and it all stemmed from a telephone call that should have lasted, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And then by the time I got done, the conversation had stretched to nearly 3 hours. Now, who is it that I call that would warrant this kind of conversation, lengthy as it was? Well, it was my good friend Debbie. Now, I hadn't talked to Debbie in over a year, so we had a lot to catch up on and a lot of laughing to do. And I started thinking about how I say at the end of every Take Two and at the end of any time I do a live shift on WRMZ RAM FM radio, I usually end with, and I do always end with, be a blessing to somebody today, because you might end up being the only one who is. So yesterday, although I try to do little things that are a blessing all throughout my week, throughout my day, I went a little bit extra mile yesterday, and like I said, instead of it being just a short, hey, how you doing, good to catch up with you kind of phone call, it ended up stretching into being very silly, which was yesterday's Take Two. You remember I talked about how being silly is like good health to the bones, to have some laughter in your life. And not only that, but I also ended up catching up with her and being a blessing to her. You know, it's very interesting because at the end of the conversation, when we were getting ready to hang up for about the umpteenth time, because every time we thought we were going to hang up, we ended up talking some more about other things. But as we were, she said, Jeannie, I really needed this today. I just needed to laugh. I just needed to be blessed. And she really, what she was saying to me was that, Jeannie, you took your own advice. You were being a blessing to me. And guess what? You today were the only one who was. Now, I know that a lot of people do not go out of their way. Some do, but not everybody goes out of their way to say, I think I'll be cranky and crabby and nasty to people today. And I think I'll prefer myself over everybody else around me. You know, sometimes they carry that with them because they have a bad attitude for one reason or another. But some people have to really work hard at being kind and polite and reaching out to others around them. So it was a little bit of a stretch. It was 10:30 at night. Now, she lives on the West Coast, Debbie, so it was only 8:30 at night for her when I called. So it was no big deal. But by the time I hung up with her, it was about 20 to 2 in the morning. So was this friend worth staying up that late for? You bet. You bet it was. Definitely worth the 3 hours that I spent on the phone with her. In recent days, I made a relationship with our neighbors down the street, a couple streets down in our subdivision. I never knew them before now. Through an extraordinary set of circumstances, we got acquainted with neighbors that have been our neighbors for 15 years, and we didn't even know it. And shame on us, you know. But anyway, there's a female member of the family who is basically homebound. And I got to know her a little bit, and we started talking. And anyway, long story short, very long story short, I asked her husband, would it be okay if I visited her? Would that be all right? And he just beamed and he said, oh, yes. He said, no one ever visits her. And I'm at work all day, and our children are grown and gone, and they live other places. So, gosh, it would be wonderful. So one day I made the little trek down the road to the cul-de-sac, and I knocked on the door, and they'd actually given me a key. And so I went in, and I said, hello, and she was kind of drowsy, and she was so happy to see me. And let me tell you, I spent about 90 minutes with her until I had to go on to my next busy thing. And that 90 minutes was so precious because not only did I reach out to be a blessing to her, but just spending the time with her ended up being a blessing back to me. So take the time, boys and girls, to bless others, because when you bless them, you'll be surprised at how you get blessed back. So was my 2-hour and 57.5-minute phone call with Debbie worth it? Oh, yes, it definitely was. We laughed together, we blessed each other, and it was great to reminisce and be reacquainted with her after a year and a half and get caught up. Was it worth it for me to trek a few blocks down in the heat to go visit with that lady homebound who that was a highlight of her day? Yeah, it was definitely worth it. So it's important that you take your own advice, okay? When it comes to things like that. Please, please, don't be a do what I say but don't do what I do person. Don't be that way with your children. Don't be that way with others around you, with your coworkers, with your acquaintances. If you're going to do good and tell them to do good, but you do good too, okay? All right. So once again, I'll remind you to go be a blessing today to somebody. You might end up being the only one who is that blessing, okay? You may be the only one. And I want to say hi to everybody who's tuning in today. Hello, Dean. Hello, Pastor Lyle. Talk about a blessing. I got the greatest pastor in the world. Philip, Richie, others who are watching, I just say hello to you. Thank you. You're being a blessing to me by tuning in. And don't forget to go to my YouTube channel. Subscribe. You can catch up on all my past Take Twos. And it's Jeanne Sigler, Jeanne Sigler. Okay, y'all. Be blessed. Happy hump day. Go be a blessing, okay? You got all day to do it. And tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Don't ever forget. It's very important. Love y'all. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.